This is Pre-Calc section 7.2, video number 3 on ellipses. This now we're going to work backwards. This is, you're going to be given certain pieces of information and you have to come up with the equation for the ellipse. So that means we're going to need to stuff into either this equation or this equation. It's this equation if you can establish that your center is 0, 0. If your center is elsewhere, you're going to have to use this equation. So I always start by putting some information on the graph, and that helps me decide what kind of ellipse it is and which of these two formulas I have to use. So your foci are radical 5 comma 0 and negative radical 5 comma 0. Radical 5 is about 2.4. So 2.40 is about here, and negative 2.40 is about here. Now those are your foci. You should remember that your foci are on the major axis. If your foci are on the major axis and they are on this x-axis, that means we are talking about a horizontal ellipse. That's one thing. The other is your foci are equidistant away from the center. That means your center must be 0, 0. So I get to use this formula, which makes my work just a teeny bit easier. So I know already it's just plain old x squared plus plain old y squared. That equals 1. What I have to come up with is the a and the b value. Well, if the foci are this distance away from 0, that tells me that c is radical 5. I'm going to use that information as well as the y-intercepts being 0, 2 and 0, negative 2. Now those are the y-intercepts, but what we were calling those were endpoints of the minor axis. The minor axis is vertical. The distance from the center is 2 units. That means b is 2. We know that c is radical 5, and all we have to do is figure out what a is. We know that to find c, we were using a squared minus b squared, or b squared minus a squared. In this case, it is a squared minus b squared, because we have established that it is a horizontal ellipse, and because it's a horizontal ellipse, we know that that number right there on the bottom will be bigger than that number right there. So it's this order right here, and I just have to solve this equation. A squared minus b squared, 2 squared is 4, equals c squared, radical 5 squared is 5. Simple to solve, add 4 to both sides, gives me 9, take the square root, and a is 3. So now I can fill into this equation. 3 squared is 9, 2 squared is 4, and that is the equation of the ellipse that has this information. Same set of directions, but now we have a different center. The center is 1, 5. As soon as we know the center is 1, 5, I can't use that short form. I have to use this, and I'm going to put that on the graph over 1, up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Also, I know that the minor axis is vertical. The minor axis is vertical. That means the major axis is horizontal. If the major axis is horizontal, we're looking at a horizontal ellipse. If the minor axis is vertical and its length is 8 units, now the total length is 8 units, that means 4 units in this direction and 4 units in this direction, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that is vertical. That means what we have just found out is that b is 4. So we've got to find a, and we know that c is 3. So all we have to do is decide about a squared minus b squared, or is it b squared minus a squared? But because it is a horizontal ellipse, you're looking at a squared minus b squared equals c squared. So it's a squared minus 4 squared, which is 16, equals 3 squared, which is 9. Add 16 to both sides, gives me 25. Take the square root of both sides, and that means a is 5. So all I have to do now is plug in the center into here, and our a and our b. So this will be x minus h, which is 1, squared, over a squared, 5 squared is 25, plus y minus k, that's y minus 5 squared, over b squared, which is 16, equals 1. Another one, now we've got the foci at negative 4, 0, and 4, 0, major axis length is 10. Foci at negative 4, 0, and positive 4, 0. That tells me that my center is 0, 0. I get to use this shorter version right here. The foci are located on the major axis. The major axis length is 10. That means from the center out this way would be 5, and the center here to there will be 5. So I have just found out that A is 5. What I don't know is B. I do know C, because the foci were at -4, 0, and 4, 0. That makes C equal to 4. The major axis is horizontal. That tells me this is a horizontal ellipse. So we are looking at A squared minus B squared equals C squared. So it's 5 squared, which is 25, minus B squared equals C squared, so that's 16. Subtract 25 from both sides gives me negative B squared equals -9, which means positive B squared equals +9. Take the square root, and B is 3. So I have all the information I need. I'm going into this. So this is x squared over A squared, which is 25, plus y squared over B squared, it's going to give me 9, equals 1. Center is 3, 4. The major axis is vertical with length equal to 10, and C equals 3. Because we have a center that's not 0, 0, I can't use the short one. I'll have to use this longer one. And I can start putting things on the graph. The center is 3, 4. The major axis is vertical. If the major axis is vertical, that means this is going to be a vertical ellipse. It has a total length of 10. That means from the center, I can go up 5, it's about right there, and go down 5. That tells me that the B value is 5. That is, the vertical distance is 5. We know the C value is 3 because they gave it to us. All we need to find out is A. So this is a vertical ellipse, which means I need to use B squared minus A squared equals C squared. So 5 squared is 25 minus A squared equals 3 squared, which is 9. Subtract 25 from both sides is negative A squared equals -16, which means positive A squared equals +16, or A is 4. And that's all the information we need to be able to fill into this formula. Center was 3, 4, so this is x minus 3, quantity squared, over 4 squared, which is 16, plus y minus 4, quantity squared, over the B value squared, which is 25, equals 1.